From the heart of Hawkeye Nation comes the show that dissects the plays, debates the calls, and celebrates the victories. This isn't just a podcast. This is your unfiltered access to the mind of two diehard fans. They live and breathe black and gold, and they're here to give you the honest, raw takes you won't find anywhere else. Get ready for deep dive analysis, passionate debate, and a unique perspective on the team you love. This is Punting is Winning with JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye fans, to a special edition of Punting is Winning, the All Iowa podcast. This is the post-spring football edition. I want to talk a little bit about the things that we saw while we were up there this weekend. Again, this is our own personal observations. This is not going off of what other people have said. This is only going off of one spring practice that we were privy to. Honestly, I mean, it was a gorgeous day. Yeah. Perfect day for a spring practice. Had a good time. We want to put the caveat also on some of this that there were a lot of players missing, being held out from that final practice, whether it was precautionary or just was not a need for it to be there. So take this with a grain of salt, some of it, because I don't think we're going to get a clear indication of what the offense or the defense truly is going to look like until we get to the fall practice. Probably that kids practice is going to give us a better idea if we actually get to go to that. I don't know that I'm going to be around to be able to go to that, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's just dive in. What were your observations? What did you see? Was there anything that you saw, I guess, that would kind of take you a little bit aback as to what you saw? That anything that surprised you? Anything that you thought, whoa, that's not what I expected?
Well, I don't know if I had the expectations that other people had as far as the quarterback play. I kind of, I expected it to look about the way it did. I think from a positive standpoint, I like the number of shots they tried to take downfield. They didn't necessarily connect on a lot of those. But again, the caveat being that a lot of the receiving core was not even in pads. They were all standing on the sidelines. You had two potential starters out there with Dayton Howard and Reese Vanderzee. Outside of that, it was a lot of backup guys, probably guys that hadn't gotten a lot of the same repetitions with the ones that took a lot of one reps this time. In particular, guys like KJ Parker, probably not taking a ton of one reps, probably taking some two reps. I think he's definitely on that two line. Lance Beagley, who is probably more on the three line at times, is taking a lot of two reps. I think he showed that at times that he looked like he belonged. Outside of that, I just don't really, there wasn't a ton of the receivers available. Xavier Stinson was there, didn't get a lot thrown his way, but in the 7-on-7 stuff, he looked pretty good. The live 11-on-11, I don't think they really threw much to him. And if he did, it was probably Fitzgerald or Jimmy Sullivan at the helm at that time. And neither one of them two looked really comfortable yet. Again, that's not a detriment to them. That's just, it takes a while to get into the groove and to really grasp the offense and get your timing. You're not working with these guys, some of these guys on a consistent basis, so the timing's going to be off. You're also working behind a more inexperienced offensive line, so you're not getting as much time, because I noticed those guys didn't really have as much time in the pocket to do much. I think from the offensive line standpoint, I was pleased with how the first team offensive line looked. There were a couple times that the defensive line got to them and put some pressure on Hank Brown and Hecklinski. But for the most part, they kept the pocket clean, allowed those guys to work. I think one observation I did make was, I think Jeremy Hecklinski is kind of like a Drew Tate. He plays and he throws better on the run as opposed to a straight drop back guy. I think Hank Brown's more of a straight drop back guy and less of a get him out in space type of thing. So you've got two different types of quarterbacks back there. I don't know. What do you think? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with you a little bit on this. I don't think we're going to glean a whole lot out of a spring practice when a lot of the guys were not there to participate. The thing that's going to be a little bit probably taken aback for a lot of fans this fall, and you'll probably see this, is I think the special teams is going to be a little bit behind than what you're used to seeing. I was a little bit disappointed in not necessarily the punting game, but the speed of which Boston Everett was able to get the ball out when it was snapped to him. He was a little slow. I thought that was something that needs to be sped up, or he's going to end up seeing some blocked punts. That scares me a little bit. And I know they'll work on that over the course of the summer. He did look more comfortable in rugby style. Obviously, that's where he's from. It's Australia. They play a lot of rugby down there. He did seem more comfortable with that.
He did boom one though. That was
he's able,
absolutely a moonshot.
But to be honest, the Tanner Philpott, the transfer from Simpson, I thought he held his own against him. I thought they were pretty neck and neck. I didn't think either one of them was heads and tails better than the other. So that's something to kind of be put an eye on for the fall. Something else. Go ahead.
One real quick caveat on that, to kind of play off a little bit of what you said. I think the competition will be determined by that speed in which to get the ball off. I think that there's too much of an opportunity right now that Boston Everett's punts are going to get blocked, whereas Philpott's a little quicker. He may not have quite the leg, but I think I would rather have a 35 or 40-yard punt than a punt blocked.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, when it comes to, and I know people are going to ask, who's Drew Stevens' replacement. Eli Ozick was there. Caden Bird did not participate, so he would be the number 2 guy, I assume, coming in. What were my impressions of Eli Ozick? Accurate from about 45 and in. I wouldn't put him much past 52. That's probably his limit, theoretically. I mean, legitimately. As of right now, I just didn't think he does not have the leg that Drew Stevens is. So if anybody thinks he's going to go in there and just, take right over and be able to kick 50, 58 and 59-yard field goals, I think you're going to be disappointed. That's not going to happen. But I think he's going to be accurate.
I will say that seeing Caden Burr on the sidelines in street clothes or in shorts, basically, that kid's ripped.
He's pretty big.
I'm guessing that he probably does have the stronger leg. It might be an accuracy issue. And, based on the fact that he did not participate, we don't know that he's not the number 1 guy.
Yeah, we didn't get to see him at all. So we don't know, what he's bringing to the table at this point, without being able to lay eyes on and see how he can kick. At this point, we're just assuming Eli Ozick is probably going to be your guy, unless something changes. And that's a possibility. He was impressive, but he wasn't something that, since we didn't get to see the other guy, how do you know what he looks like? Things that you mentioned, a lot of guys from the wide receiver crew are out. Tony Diaz, Evan James, Jarrett Bowie, Terrence Smith. None of those guys played. From a wide receiver standpoint, I thought the best wide receiver out there was Reese Vanderzee. Lance Bigley had a couple of nice catches. I don't think he's going to see the field a whole lot this year. Maybe some. Depends on, injuries, that kind of thing. But from a quarterback standpoint, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't think we saw any great things out of either one of the 2 guys. You're right. I do believe Hecklinski is better at rolling out of the pocket and throwing on the run than Hank Brown is. But as far as passing efficiency, I think it was both of them were not great on Saturday. But part of that could be, when you're up against your defense, who basically knows your offense better than you do, or as good as you do. They know everything that you're going to do before you do it. The line, how you line up, where you bring somebody across, the line, they know all of that stuff ahead of you. So it's tough to glean anything from that when you're up against your own defense constantly, and they know you. They know your personnel. They know everything about you, how you are. I thought the defense was pretty on. I think we'll be good for the defense for the most part. Zach Lutmer, he's going to be an All-American. I have a feeling that he's just heads and shoulders above Ray. I thought Cam Buffington looked good. There was some guy, Jose Epinesa. I thought I don't know if he'll start. I assume he will, but I don't know if he doesn't start, he'll probably play some significant minutes. He'll be valuable in there as a pass rusher. I'm not sure how we didn't seem to run the ball that great on Saturday. I thought the running game was nothing to be right home about. I'll tell you. Nobody really set themselves apart. How's that? They all seem to get their 4 yards in a cloud of dust type of stuff. Nothing really broke free for anybody. Good thing about the quarterbacks, going back to quarterbacks, is a good thing about they didn't throw a lot of interceptions. They kept the ball away from the defense. The ones that did were I think did I see Fitzgerald threw one, or maybe Sullivan threw one?
Sullivan threw
two. There you go. So just I think that the guys, I think Lester has been in the guy's ear saying, if it's not there, don't risk it. But they also, by the same token, like you said, they did take some shots down the field. How that's going to translate to the fall, I'm not sure. If they'll continue to do that, or if they'll tone it back, bring it back a little bit. This was just, like I say, your spring practice. What do you got to lose? It's it's no big deal. Work on what you can, and then in the fall, then you'll fine tune things. And I'm not sure if you'll be taking that many shots in a game unless you're ahead by a lot and you decide to go ahead and pour it on. But as far as tight end, I thought DJ Vanami looked good. No Addison Stringa obviously yet. You had LG Phillips, Kamari Moulton, Xavier Williams, and Nathan McNeil all out there. I didn't see Brevin Dahl was not participating, so he wasn't part of the situation there. Offensive line, I think Michael Myslinski was the only one that didn't participate. But I think
Leonard was not participating either.
Okay. But you're going to see a bunch of those guys kind of interchangeable. Some guys that are going to play guard will play tackle on some. They're just going to be interchangeable. They're going to learn all of the snaps and the reads and all the different things that they need to learn. I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. I think they'll be decent. I don't know if they'll be good. I don't think they're going to be Joe Moore Award winners this year, but they're going to be good. They'll be decent.
They'll be solid.
They'll be solid.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's not a huge drop off from last year. I mean, there's a drop off obviously because you've got, you've over the last 2 years you've had all 5 offensive linemen drafted in the NFL in the top 4 or 5 rounds. Yeah. There's going to be some drop off, but I don't think it's going to be as noticeable as it had been in the past. Like, you go back 3 years ago and when Barnett first came in, and I think everybody was ready to run him out of Iowa City after the first 2 or 3 games because the offensive line looked porous.
Yeah.
Those guys were young and playing when they shouldn't have been playing because they had to. I don't think you're going to see that kind of a drop off. It's going to be more of a, like let's say last year's, and I'm just going to throw out hypothetical numbers because I don't know the exact numbers. Let's say last year's team gave up 15 sacks. This year's offensive line may give up 20. That's the kind of drop off I'm going to see. Is it may not be quite as good, but it's still going to be good.
Well, yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem at all. I think my concern might be at this point, the interior of the defensive line might be a little bit of a concern, but I think they'll be okay. I think they'll find their rhythm, and I think they'll be okay. I didn't see anything that was just to me that was glaring weakness, but they also have a tendency when they have these practices, there's not a lot. I mean, this is the exact same thing you saw last year. Just the names changed is really all it was. I think the main thing that people were looking at probably more than anything is quarterback. And if I had to pick right now, I think you take Jeremy Hiklinski just by a nose. I mean, it's so close at this point that there is definitely going to have to be, it's going to have to be relayed to everybody that it's competition. There's no other way about it. I don't think one is heads and shoulders better than the other. So at that point,
I would say, from my standpoint, from a wins and losses standpoint, you're probably going to get the same out of either one of them. It might just be one of them has a little bit prettier stats.
Yeah.
At this point. Now, I know A lot of people are down on Hank Brown because of a missed screen pass. I hope that doesn't haunt him for the rest of his life, because that's not his fault. He was thrown into a situation when he probably wasn't ready for. And we unfairly say, oh, well, that cost us the game. No. What cost us the game was we missed a field goal right after that, and then we gave up a touchdown. Now, granted, if we'd have completed that pass, could we have ran the clock down? We don't know that, we don't know that Drew Stevens would have hit the field goal.
Yeah, but if you get closer, it seems like the percentages go a little bit higher as the closer you get, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not reasonable to say that we could have won that game had we completed that pass, but I don't think it's fair to put that all on his shoulders and say, he lost us that game. No.
It's not really not fair to do what ifs either at this point.
No. And the other thing I do want to call out, you talked about some of the defensive players. One of the guys that I did want to call out was Drew Campbell, playing on the opposite end of Yosei. I thought he played pretty well. I thought Joseph Anderson did really well. I did not see, I don't know, butcher his name, Chinike. I did not see him at all. I don't know if he was dressed or not. I think Joseph Anderson was the one that had the pick six on the deflected pass at the line. So I think we have talented running backs, and I think we have a talented offensive line. The fact that our running backs, and again, like you said, don't take this with a grain of salt, because our defense knows the plays. But the fact that our running backs did not break anything more than about 3 or 4 yards, that's bodes well from the defensive line standpoint, at least on the run game side. I think they'll be able to figure out ways to generate some pass rush.
I hope so.
Might have to be creative a little bit. Might be a Cam Buffington and Jaden Montgomery and probably a Derek Weiskopf or Landon Van Kekerix would be your 3 right now, because I think Preston Reese has been hurt. I think he's a little behind everybody because of that. I did think that Van Kekerix held his own, and I did not see Jaden Montgomery out there at all.
Yeah, we did see Weiskopf out there a few times, and
with Buffington.
And I thought he looked okay. I don't think he lost any coverage or anything. He just seemed to know where he was supposed to be and made some plays. So I'm not too concerned about the.
He reminds me of like an AJ Eads type of player.
Yeah,
that's going back a few years.
A fair assessment.
Maybe even who was the number 20? Moved to linebacker, played in the NFL. Gosh, this is back about 2010.
Not talking about Josie Jewell.
No. Prior to that, they had a group of linebackers prior to that. Same time as Morris played.
James Morris.
No,
I'm having a hard time with that one, but I thought the crowd was nice on Saturday. There's several. The Iowa home side was pretty full. It wasn't to capacity by any sense of the word, and there was nobody on the visitor side. There was no one there, so that was completely open. And I think they were keeping people out of that area anyway.
Another one that might be a good comparison for him would be like Nick Neiman.
I was thinking of him, but I couldn't come up with the name.
That's what I'm coming up with.
Just really solid, but not flashy. Just always going to be there and make the play.
Christian Kirksey. There we go. Hitchens and Kirksey, the two that I was thinking of.
Yeah, I can see that. He's
got some coverage skills. He's got some speed. I think Cam Buffington is the prototypical middle linebacker. I mean, that's ingrained in his DNA, I think.
I'm kind of shocked if he doesn't start, providing he doesn't get injured. I think he's kind of the parent at this point. I think you're going to see good things out of him too. Yeah.
And I would be kind of surprised if Marcelo Vitti didn't play a lot this year too. That is another player that did not play. Jalen Watson did not dress, and that's another defensive back that I was really kind of wanting to see how he's progressed.
Cody Haddad didn't. He was Cody Haddad was there, but I didn't see him play a whole lot. He was in some.
I thought Deshaun Lee played well.
Yeah.
Jacob Wallace really looked well. And it allows Zach Lutmer to play the safety position where he's probably more comfortable to be able to be all over the field.
And he was. He was making plays. Yeah, he's got it. He's the next guy. He's the next defensive star, I think. Him and Buffington, I think, are the two guys that you should look out for.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. But overall standpoint, I think there were good things there. You can definitely see the progression of where it's going. Now, if these guys can get healthy, I'd love to have seen, a game situation. So the one thing I will say, going back to the quarterback situation, there was a play where Hecklinski got pressured, and he kind of pulled a Patrick Mahomes, Drew Tate type of thing, and just kind of sidearm slung it down from a kind of like a Kent to Colby, where you get down. It was a sidearm,
kind of a submarine or sidearm type of thing.
Yeah, somebody that he just kind of came out at a weird angle. Didn't complete the pass, but he got rid of it and it was on target. I think that was one of them to KJ Parker. Now KJ Parker's an enigma. The kid made some really good catches on balls that you probably wouldn't expect him to catch, and then a ball that hit him right in the hands, he dropped. I don't understand that. There was a couple others that made some really nice catches over on the sidelines.
Well, he made a nice one over the middle too, where he had to go up for it, and at the same time the defensive got sandwiched, and he still made the play and come down with it. There wasn't a lot of highlights from the receiving standpoint, but because the passes were, and they're fine, some of them, but not great. So there wasn't a whole lot of highlights as far as, lighting it up, guys running wide open down the field or anything like that. There was none of that. Some of the 7-on-7 stuff was a little bit better to watch. You could see how they were throwing the ball a little bit better, but when it came to, actual 11-on-11s, it struggled a little bit. But I guess you can expect that kind of thing. Kirk's not going to show a whole lot in the spring, and especially in a practice that's open to the public, that anybody and everybody who has a cell phone could be taking video of things. He's not going to show you anything other than what he wants to show you. And that's fine. I wouldn't want to have anybody looking at ours and saying, "Ooh, there's something different that I've seen from Iowa that they're working on." Leave it vanilla.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main reasons why you don't see the Big Ten crew ever going to Iowa City. I think Kirk's like, I don't necessarily want you guys here for that.
Yeah, in fact,
you can come in for
didn't even cover it.
All practice or whatever that you always do. We're not going to show a ton in that practice anyway. We might show you a couple things to highlight a few guys, but we're not going to show you a ton.
Right.
We're going to go through workouts like we always do. It's the same type of practice every year, the same thing you guys can expect. But yeah, we're not going to show you a ton of stuff that we're working on because nobody else needs to see it until we roll it out in a game.
Well,
and I'm okay with that.
One of the things that I want to mention to some people that have never had a chance to go to the spring practice or even watch their practices at all, but the level of organization for having that many players has to be on a top tier level. It really does.
It's an NFL practice.
It is definitely an NFL. You know where you're going to be, what you're going to do every time the whistle blows, when they change stations and do different things, do different drills, you know where you're going and you know where you need to be. And that to me is when you organize something like that, it breeds consistency. And they don't have to worry about where do I have to be? Where am I going? Maybe the early freshmen might have to worry about that in the spring or in the early fall when they have to, if they can't early enroll, they might be worried about that kind of thing, but they'll snap in the line. The older guys will get them figured out and tell them where they need to be. But just from an organizational standpoint, it's on par for anything you'd ever want to see, the best you'd ever want to see. It's just very well organized.
Well, the one thing I will say is I love the fact that the guys have fun, but there's no screwing around.
Right.
They have their moments where, I think when Anderson picked off that pick six, of course they blew it dead right after he got past the the 40-yard line or something, but he kept going and the guys were just hooting and hollering,
following him behind. And
yeah. And that's great. And they have fun. They pick each other up, but then it was immediately right back to next play. Let's get going.
Yep.
They even ran professionalism.
They even ran situational things where if it was late in the quarter and they had a clock running in the stadium, and if it's 7 seconds left, they actually called a timeout. They had referees on the field. They called a timeout, and then they run the kicker out there. And it was just, you're working on situational things, which is great because you need to do that. Obviously you'll hit it a lot harder in the fall when things, get closer to heating up. But it's good to have that, so the situations, the pressure that is to get out there on time and get yourself set up and ready to go for the play to end the half or whatever the case may be in that situation. But, the spring is fun for the guys. I think they get to kind of feel things through with some of the newer guys, but when it comes to fall, it's dead serious, and it's time to strap it up and really get it laced up tight. So those are the things that you'll see maybe a difference in the spring, the end of the spring, which was the last practice was Saturday. Obviously you're kind of wrapping things up and things get a little looser, but by the same token, when you start that thing up in the fall, it is all hands on deck and it is serious, and we got to go out and win some games. And I wasn't unhappy with what I saw. There wasn't really anything. You'd like to see the quarterbacks a little crisper. It's spring. I would be disappointed if I didn't see Christmas, a little more Christmas than I saw in the fall. If they aren't starting to hit guys in stride and really starting to lay them in there nice, then, if you've got two quarterbacks, you don't have one, right? Is that how the old story goes? If you've got two quarterbacks and neither one of them is number one, then you don't have anything. Well, I hope we don't see that. I hope one of these guys steps up.
It was definitely more crisp than it was last spring.
Yeah.
From a quarterbacking standpoint.
Because you didn't get to see your number one guy either.
Yeah. And again, there's a lot of guys that were missing. So there's a lot of issues with timing where you're not used to working with the guy so much. You're not used to working with that guy that's probably 6th or 7th on the depth chart. And now because the guys are out, he's 3rd or 4th.
Right.
And, he now becomes a viable option in the passing game. Whereas before it was like, I don't ever have to throw to this guy because he's never on the field at the same time I am.
Right.
So that level of comfort with each other is not going to be there. And I think it's great. That happens. But I think that does take away a little bit from what we were looking for. And maybe people might have walked out of there a little more disappointed in that. I will say the one thing that I did appreciate a lot. I think there was a play. It's late in the practice. It was a pass to Lance Bigley, the SMU transfer, and he went up and then he stretched and he laid out for it and he didn't come up with it. And it was down near the end zone. And I kind of watched as he got back up and he trotted down the sidelines. First person that was there to greet him was Tim Lester, to talk to him, and it looked like they had a fun conversation, more of a, hey, a great effort type of thing. Now, what could you have done differently to come down with that? Or what could you have done differently to get open better? And I just think that's the type of coaching that some players need. And I think he took that to heart, because I think it was a little bit later that he did make a catch like that, let down the other sideline. So I enjoy watching those kinds of things. I know a lot of people are there just to watch the X's and the O's, but the interactions with the coaches mean just as much to me, if not more, than some of the X's and O's do.
Yeah, I thought Kirk Ferentz was a lot less involved this time than he was last year. I thought last year he was really involved a lot more. I think this year he's kind of laying back a little bit, letting his offensive and defensive coaches kind of run things, and he just if he needs to inject something, then he does. But otherwise he kind of stands back, especially this last practice. Maybe he's more involved in earlier practices that we won't see, but he didn't seem to be all that. Not that he wasn't paying attention. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying he's taken a little less of a role as far as being involved in
He's being
every
more of
little
a
thing.
CEO.
Less of a detailed type of guy where, you can't put your fingers down like that, or, that kind of thing. You just kind of sitting back saying, I have coaches that can do the job, and I'm going to let them, if I need to correct somebody later, I will, but
Less of a hands-on manager, more of a CEO.
Yeah. And that's good to see.
Yep. And I think he's deserved it. He's earned it at this point.
Yeah.
28 years of doing this. I think, put the trust in your coaches. And I think that might even be, and this probably makes some Hawk fans happy, that might even be step ones towards approaching retirement.
Well, yeah, maybe could be. I mean, from every indication we've seen that he's going to run out his contract. I think that goes to 2028 or 29. Yeah. So, but quickly before we leave, I know we're just going to step through this real quick, but I wanted to congratulate all the Hawkeyes that were drafted and those that signed free agent deals. I saw 7 were drafted. That's outstanding. Yeah, that's outstanding. And we were right up there with the Penn States and the Ohio States, and of course Ohio State had a couple more. But we're holding our own in the Big Ten as far as talent level. So
the NFL likes Iowa players.
They do,
especially the Steelers.
They selected three Hawkeyes this year, and plus there's like 4 or 5 more on the team. Yeah. So that's good. I think that Iowa has players that they understand their coaching situation, and they feel like they're maybe a little bit ahead of a lot of players when they come out of college. So that's a good thing.
Coached to be the NFL player that they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know anything. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope. I just enjoyed the time getting up there and getting back into Kinnick. I hadn't been up there since last year. Beautiful day. Had my kids along with me as well. Which, as you know, 4 of us went up and watched. I think they had a good time as well. So all in all, good day.
Yeah, we're going to take a break until probably, I don't know, end of July, maybe, when they do the Big Ten media days. We may pop up for that, but I would say we're going to take most of the summer off, if not all of it. If something should change, we may pop back up. You'll see us. Make sure you hit the bell, and that'll let you know if we drop a video. Otherwise, just hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll get back to you guys in the fall. But we're going to take a little break and be rested and rejuvenated and ready to go for the fall, and push through till the end of basketball probably again, and see where we're at from there.
Yep. I think that format works pretty well because there's not a ton of stuff going on in the late spring and early summer for us. So gives us a chance to do some things that we don't normally get to do. So
yeah,
we'll be back and ready to go full flow and for season 4 in, if nothing else, it'll be the week 0. We'll be back for sure. Probably prior to that, just to talk about fall camp, media days, that kind of stuff leading up to and making our predictions.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all I got.
Have a good summer, everybody, and we'll see you coming up in either late July or early August.
Yep. With that said, let's do a Go Hawks and get out of here.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.